Okay, let's see. This is gonna work? I don't think so, to be honest. This is already pissing me off. You know, honesty is the most important trait these days because nobody knows how to speak truth anymore. And that's basically what it means to be deceived into lying about everything. You know, I don't quite get it. Alright. What's the matter? I'm just gonna put something in here so that it stops making such an annoying racket. So if you carry bottles and things like this, I don't know. But in the end, it's your choice. I could have done something entirely different with my time today, but I did not, and here I am. Possibly talking about hate again, which seems to be the topic all the time. And wow, this is going to be a challenge. If you've got something, you know, I have this. Jesus. I mean, I'm a very good example for someone who has none of the things that people think you should have and still manages to smile more often than the rest of the people. Now, if I don't move more than I have to, I might actually make it. I left my stuff today at home. It was a conscious choice. I just had the feeling, I mean, my neighbors, I don't know, I said full range. And so full range it shall be. Wow, how long is this thing gonna hold? Forever. Ah, there's the neighbors. Ich?
Ja, als ich rausging, habe
Ach
ich
so.
die Tür aufgehalten.
Ich habe die Matten ausgeschlagen.
Ach so.
Weil
Ja,
beim
das ist
Putzen. Ja. Nee, ich gehe jetzt. Ich habe nur mal kurz schon mal Luft geschnuppert. Und gehe ich jetzt Richtung Stadtpark.
Mhm.
Bis zu meinen Eltern und dann
Zum Mittagessen?
Nee. Die haben so unregelmäßige Zeiten. Ich habe gerade so ein paar Croissants gegessen.
Auch nicht schlecht.
Ja, einfach, dass man sowas im Magen hat.
Ja, dann noch einen schönen
Gute Frage. Mittwoch, glaube ich. Das kommt hin, ne?
Kommt hin.
Ja, ist auch nicht so wichtig. Morgen geht die Sonne eh wieder auf. Ja. Außer wir haben, wie nennt man das? Sonnenfinsternis. Ja.
Machen Sie es gut.
Ja, gute Heimreise. see, it's very weird, you know, I don't really understand it. I'm alone at home. I'm alone at home, and I feel like I have nothing to give, you know, I feel bored and I feel empty. And then I leave my apartment, and then, you know, one of my neighbors, or the neighbors, it's just a word I probably made up, probably for neighbors that have breasts, and it's a neighbors, but I have breasts, and that's the weird thing, right? Oh wow, nice car. Full range. Just fuck it. I hate this thing. Sorry. You know, it's, you know, I think we should be allowed to feel a little bit ashamed of walking around with these cameras. I really think so. I think we should be allowed to feel ashamed of walking around with a phone in your hand and carrying all this nonsense on our backs, when, you know, a leaf would probably do it, if you know what I mean. I mean, whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I have the feeling already, you know, now I'm walking like I have no pain. Well, give me half an hour of walking like this and I'll probably have pain again. Anyway, so I met my neighbor, and suddenly I had something to give again. I was like, oh wow, you know, it's strange, certainly strange, but I don't know. I like tiny women. I always have, and I assume I shall always. You know, if I use the term thick women, what I refer to is women that are a bit wider than I am. And I'm looking for, right, I was always looking for women that were at least a bit like me. You know, certainly a bit smaller. It doesn't have to be, they can be the same size almost, but I like it if they are similar shape to mine. You know, why is that? I don't know. I think as much as I have to give, you know, I haven't that much to give to a woman that's like really wide. You know, because I have to be able to fill her. But of course the outer shape is in a way insignificant, because if there's an entire universe inside of you, then what's it matter how big someone is on the outside? You know, if I can carry myself around in this shape, then I mean, it's pretty obvious that size is relative. And sometimes, I don't know, I have the feeling that tiny women, they have more spunk. But I could also say I have no idea. I have no idea, absolutely no idea, nothing. You know, there are certain things where I really know nothing about. I know nothing about certain things, and I also would like to keep it that way. You could say I know nothing about, you know, I just dropped certain things. You know, you can know anything if you want to. But first of all, knowledge is relative, because what you think is knowledge is just something that's based on your assumptions up until now, because everything that I think I know is an assumption based on my experiences and the feeling that life gives me. And I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, there's nothing else. There's not more. And yet there's everything. I think I really stopped making sense now. Great, you know? Amazing. Anyway, so the only thing that you can see is nothing. I mean, you don't really see anything. You don't really see anything that's not there. So if you have the feeling somebody was standing in your room, and then you turn around and there's no one, well, I say somebody was standing in your room, because people try to ignore the fact that the third eye exists, and whatever entities are controlling you probably want it that way because you can only see them with your third eye, or you feel them. And seeing with your third eye is more like feeling, right? It's something you have to train yourself, right? You have to want to see what's going on in the world. You have to want to see that which is hidden, which is why, you know, sometimes children just, you know, you see them laying around and then they look at all kinds of random shit. Skip.
Ich muss rüber, mein Bus kommt jetzt gleich. Soll ich stehen oder nicht?
Die stehen noch, aber es ist gleich grün.
Grün?
Ist doch noch kein Bus da. Das ist grün, ey. Who was that? You know, weird people greeting you. I don't know who you are. You say something, you go for a run, you know. I don't really know. Apparently, word travels faster because normally people don't talk to you like that. I don't know, law of attraction. Let's just keep it that way. You know, you don't have to understand me, but if you do, you know, good job, right? If you understand what I'm saying, then apparently something in you knows how to speak truth. Because otherwise you couldn't make shit and you wouldn't keep watching this. Because for some reason you appear to have the feeling that certain things that I'm saying, you know, come from a place that you would like to understand. You know, I mean, how is he talking like this? That's the first thing. Well, it's intuitive, right? I go to the forest at night, I see weird shapes. You know, I can say it's a hallucination and pretend it's not there. But a much better way is to simply get used to the feeling of there is something. And then to also acknowledge that whatever this something is, you know, it doesn't have a material body. So the only thing it can do is create voices in my mind, you know, give me like disturbing images. Yeah, I can never collect. I don't know, I feel like I can never collect empty bottles to get money for them. If somebody gives me a drink and I drink it, you know, I can then return it, which is strange. But there are just certain rules. And one of the rules is that sometimes you pick up things and you don't understand them, but they're still there. And it makes no sense, but it does if you know how to understand feelings and emotions and follow your heart and just keep on living your life the way that brings you healing. And what brings me healing is being conscious about the things that scare me. So if I go to the forest at night and I'm scared, then there's a valid question. Hey, we need more cars, right? It's like, hey, you could have driven. Oh no, you actually parked there, right? So if you go to the forest at night and you have these feelings of fear, right, that you can't explain, unexplainable things, and also sometimes in the presence of others, you may feel fear. Well, then maybe distance yourself. I mean, you don't have to go for an entire night hike the first time you do something like this. What you could do, you know, and I'm never recommending anything, please be aware of that. You know, if you don't understand how my content works, just read the damn disclaimer of my channel. I'm just saying, you know, I could have spared you the word damn, but I mean, that's where you read how to handle the content of a channel. And my content is quite extensive, so when you watch a movie, you actually don't know what you're going to get. And you may hear me talk about psychedelics or sex or doing things, just my experiences. You know, most of these things that happen to me, they're not really planned. I mean, I didn't really plan going to the park today, you know, I just had a feeling, and this feeling told me, you know, I think this is what you should do. But in order to understand what this feeling is trying to tell me, I have to basically look where my compass is guiding me, but also my content. You know, so I'm asking myself, is this the time to be inside? I mean, last night I recorded a 3 to 4 hour art session. And now I had the feeling, you know, I don't know why. But what I want to do is to go back to my parents' place where there's internet and then post. I know, I'm always looking for money on the streets and you never find any. Because there's probably, you know, it's energy. You know, if you're supposed to find it, you're gonna find it. I don't know. How are you supposed to deal with money? Are you supposed to be selfish? How are you supposed to be with yourself? You know, I left the house a couple of days ago, came back, my ankle was worse. And then I spent more time inside, I rested, I recorded some things, I rendered the videos that I had already. Just 17 minutes left. Okay, it's irrelevant, right? How much time is left? I just don't want to continue talking and then realize that there's nothing to say anymore. I mean, it's actually a stupid way that I'm walking now, for the simple reason that I have no I don't know. Maybe I cannot return these bottles now. Or maybe I just have to go somewhere else. I was avoiding the city for some time. Who needs help, right? It's like, you know, you have to understand that I don't know whether other people are at least a bit like me. Well, depending on the way their life has been going, I assume not. Because I cannot do a normal job. Because I get all these messages. And that's something that, you know, where science would say, well, you're insane. Well, then please tell me where all this art is coming from. Please tell me where all this intuitive knowledge is coming from. You know, at least I have an explanation for what is scary. I mean, why do we feel like there are shapes at night in the forest? Shapes, you know, shape shifters even. You know, at one instance it looks like a bear, and then in the next it looks like just a branch. Well, maybe it was a bear, or maybe the branch remembered the shape of a bear because there are no bears, it just try to imitate them. Or maybe it's a shapeshifter that's just trying to hide from you until it realizes that you forgot to see. And so if I close my eyes, I can literally dive. I can dive into anything. But that's something you have to learn. It's like zooming in and zooming out with your spirit. You can see things that aren't there in a corporal form. You know, I can see people from hundreds of miles away if I focus on them. You know, I can feel people that use me to project their anger onto me. I can feel these people from, you know, several miles away. It's certainly stronger. Actually, that's not true. I thought it was stronger within the vicinity of where I live, but it's not true. It's just that if somebody's closer, it's easier to get there. And sometimes people are further away, but if they have a huge presence and they resonate with you, you can feel them, you know, from the other end of the universe. And that's, you know, I mean, these concepts are being picked up by Marvel comics, because movies are just crap. I mean, I've never read the comics, but just, you know, that somebody comes up with the idea already tells me that these things, you know, I mean, where did he get the idea from? So anything anybody talks about, I mean, where did the Matrix movies come from? I mean, that's a very valid point. Where did the Matrix movies come from? Because I certainly find a lot of truth in there. I mean, of course, a movie is also highly metaphorical. We call this simile or something. You know, it's just an image that is being created to explain something that is so relative because it's based on so many things, like how have you been raised? You know, what's the ideas you've been born into? How have you been conditioned? And what can you do to lead a different kind of life? Well, I don't really know. You know, some people, they're so vulnerable that, you know, they just think, you know, you don't walk where they walk simply because you don't like them. It's just not my path, right? I don't generally walk with people unless I want to. And that's called freedom of choice. But it's also acknowledging my place in life. So Thanos just did what he felt like he wanted to do, and then he did it, and then people come and they get angry. Well, he still did it, didn't he? And he would do it again. Because you acknowledge that that's what people need, right? You know, for whatever reason. And if you think about it, how often we take other people for granted, right? How often we take... What the fuck? How often we take other people for granted. You know, maybe it would be good if Thanos would come and just take them away for a little while. You know, even if the Avengers restore them again. Because if you take people for granted and you did not get the message, which is, you know, they may leave and they will leave, or you will leave, which means however eternal you think you are, you know, at one point it's gonna be over. And you may change, like your shape, right? May still change, but there's no guarantee, is what I'm saying, that you're gonna come back like this. Because, you know, what's form? It's certainly not fixed. I mean, I can see people's faces change every time we meet. You know, people look a bit different. You know, I see another part to them and the image gets more complete. But I still see a change. You know, sometimes people change so much within, you know, what we would say is 2 weeks, that it just makes no sense, because it's basically, it's like an eternity pass. It's completely, sometimes I meet people 2 weeks later and it's a completely different person. And it's possible that if I change, my environment changes. And that makes no sense, you know, to science. But to me it does, because if everything's energy, then everything's fluid. It's just a different kind of fluid, you know? Not everything's water. You could say a stone is fluid. It's just like slower fluidity. You know, it's not like whirling around, but if you would speed up time, it probably would be. And then, you know, yeah, I think I have to go the long road now. I don't know why I'm going here. I just want to change, right? I just wanted to go somewhere else. Just wanted to replace one of my habits with something else. And still a little bit paranoid at times that I'm being followed and people want to beat me up. And it's possible, it's always possible. But yeah, don't think about it, right? It's basically what it's saying, you know, don't think about it. And You know, I just want to go to the shops, return my money, give the bottles back, have the money, and I don't want to go to the city. Well, that still hasn't changed. So I have to go the long road now, which I was actually trying to avoid, and now I'm going an even longer road, which is in a way stupid. But maybe I just have to prove to myself that my ankle indeed is getting much better. It's not as bad as it used to be. And you know, it's fairly strange. I mean, I've seen my father change incredibly, but it wasn't for no reason that he started to change. I paid attention to him, which is something the rest of the family couldn't do because they were so busy paying attention to their own weird needs and fears. And because I started working with my fears, I could actually pay attention to them. And right, so if you're afraid your father's gonna die because nobody has time for him or nobody sees him, you know, I don't have to spend time with you every day and play chess. All I have to do is acknowledge that you exist and treat you like a human being. And then every time I get thoughts about you, I make sure that these thoughts are nice, right? Yeah, that these thoughts are nice, and that's then my responsibility as a person and also as a parent, right? So if I have children and I get thoughts of injuries and disasters, I just make sure I realign them and transform them into something nice. And sometimes these thoughts can be really disturbing. Like, I sometimes have a knife in my hand, or scissors, like really big scissors, and I have the image of jamming it or jabbing it into my right eye. I don't know, it's always the right eye, which is weird. And that may be connected to the eye that you see truth with. And then it's your choice, and you can say, hey, you know, I don't want to see all that truth, right? I'd rather not see all that truth. And you know, that's your choice, right? That's just your choice. And you can choose, you can decide what you want to do. What you want to do. It's simply, you know, whatever you want to do. But at one point, I simply said, you know, I'm going to choose. I'm going to say, hey, I want to see it because I want to see if I can change some things. And yo, how annoying is this? It's like click, 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 click. I mean, that's the water drop. I mean, they use this for torture, you know? A drop on your head every couple of seconds, like ding, ding, ding. And that can drive you insane unless you know how to deal with it. And, you know, that's all you can say to anything. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's really insanely nice weather. It's really insanely nice weather. It's really insanely nice weather. I don't get it. I mean, it's supposed to be autumn. Okay, it's gonna get cold tonight. Hey, you know, this is a nice car, by the way. I'm just saying. And it's from the Netherlands. I mean, this is a nice car. You know, these cars are terrible. It's just junk. You know, I like cars that smell old, and old and old. And whatever it is that you're trying to do in your life, you know, do it. But just make sure, you know, if there would be a child sitting on your lap while you're doing it, the child wouldn't come to harm, because that's basically your own inner child that's sitting on your lap. And Now a child said, you know, I think you didn't get that yet. Yeah, I think I got it. I got it. And because I got it, you know, I know how to take care of myself. But there's a certain degree to which I understand, you know, what I'm supposed to do. And that's basically all there is to it. I mean, I look like a tourist to most people because I walk barefoot, I'm holding a camera, and I'm speaking to myself in English in an area where people assume they're German, right? But nobody is anything unless you want to be. I mean, you can identify with the country you were, I don't know, you popped out into the world in. Hey, you know, the best thing you can think about is just children. I mean, that's a fact. And, you know, I think that's just my mission. Just trying to live my life so that children can grow up in a better world than the shit show that we've created at the moment, which is just really toxic, and everybody's kind of miserable and angry, and they just run around full of hate. But, you know, I think it's also the concept. I mean, what you could also say is, I don't know, I have the feeling we're doing the best that we can. And the best that we can at the moment is just to accept that everything is kind of toxic and full of hate and anger, and that there are things that we can do about it, which is just work with yourself and everything you have in yourself and all the fear and hate that you carry and that each of us carries. And then acknowledge that if you empty yourself, you fill yourself with other people's hate again, and then you go to nature and you rinse yourself, which is then part of sadhana and certainly part of my dharma, whatever that means. I think that's just the job you've been born into. And sometimes I can't believe what kind of meaningful nonsense, you know, I'm basically being guided to say on here, you know, but I'm taking this very serious still. But I also don't want to make this like very sloppy. I mean, I don't want to make it like, I don't want to romanticize my life anymore, right? I just think that, hey, we should just give each other space and give other people space, and then find a way that works for us individually. And once we've found what works for us individually, we can then look at, okay, how does that which I think works for me work for the environment? Which means you have to constantly realign yourself, because, you know, whatever society is and whatever toxicity is and whatever cars do, well, the one thing I can say for sure is that, you know, you're in flow and you want to stay in flow. And that's what you have to figure out. What keeps you, like what makes your spirit flow? And then you look at your life and you look back at your childhood and all the moments where you felt good, and you ask yourself, okay, you know, how can I incorporate what I loved as a child into my life as an adult? You know, I liked climbing as a child. I'm trying to incorporate that into my life, but at the moment it's pretty hard. And that's just what I'm facing, right? You know, in a world that's ruled by money, I feel like I have none. You know, I just feel like I have none. And the question is that the truth? Well, hard to say. I haven't checked. And maybe I'm still living in the past of, you know, I have none. And maybe I should start living in the, you know, I have all. But I don't know. I'm just trying to keep it, you know, a bit just like, you also have to look at the facts. I mean, you want to live your life like you were as a child? Well, look at yourself now. And then not in the mirror, just look at yourself. Are you fat? Are you obese? Or were you obese as a child? Well, if the answer is no, then maybe you should lose some weight. And then you have to ask yourself, why did you eat so much, right? I mean, there's a lot of things connected to each other, and it's your choice to work with them and then figure it out for yourself. I mean, the answers are there. Start working with your fears. I wrote a book about it. It's called The Book of Fear. Check it out. It's also on my website, the introduction. That's it.